All right, so welcome, Sally, again to the Zoom room again. So a nice intro chat we had. So I think let's just dive into our quote for today and the lesson, which is lesson 279 about freedom today. So let me share my screen with you. Okay. All right, so there's the quite a famous quote, actually. This is one of the most famous quotes from Yeshua's teaching, time on earth when he taught, and it was recorded in the Gospels. So I thought it was appropriate given the subject today is freedom. So the lesson is about freedom again.
If you continue following my guidance, you are truly my disciples. I was going to say principles. That's funny, isn't it? If you continue following my guidance, you are truly my disciples. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Yeah, lovely.
Yeah, slightly adapted. The original was follow my word, but we know what he meant. Follow my word, you're truly my disciples. You can see, I suppose, why he uses that language, because it's familiar to people. He chose to use the same language as he taught it when he was alive. Obviously, he didn't use English; he used Aramaic, but the translated versions of it, and he'd be aware of how that's been translated and how most people understand it. So, okay, so thoughts on that? Let's read the my comments on that.
Today's inspirational quote is a translation of the original verses from the Gospel of John, in which Yeshua promises us that by following his word or guidance, we will come to know the truth that will set us free. When Yeshua says this, he was speaking to some Jews who said to him in response to this, "We have never been slaves to anyone. How can you say we will be set free?"
You get that quite often in the Gospels. You see Jesus says something, and there's people just don't get it. They're like trying to understand it on the level of form, and he's not talking on the level of form. So they say, "Well, we've never been slaves. How can you say that?" Another example was before Abraham was, I am. He said that really confused them. They were like, "Look, what are you saying? You were alive before Abraham? Like, how can that be? Because he lived like 1,000 years ago. How can that be?" They didn't understand, because he's not talking on the level of form. He's talking about the level of truth, which is the horizontal versus vertical dimension. So let me show this diagram. Might be useful, actually. The timeline consciousness diagram shows horizontal versus vertical dimension. So people thinking, if you're thinking on this horizontal level on the timeline, then something like before Abraham was, I am, or this quote, the truth will set you free, doesn't make sense, because you go, well, in my timeline, in my story, I haven't been a slave, so that doesn't make sense. But he's referring to the spiritual domain, which understands that anyone in time and space is a slave to the ego. So it's understanding from the vertical dimension, which sits above time, and through the words trying to raise you up out of the horizontal plane, the world of time and space, flat land, a very flat kind of unenlightened understanding of the world, to this higher understanding. And yeah, you can see it's interesting. They just didn't get it. But then that's that's then the teaching. The teaching comes when he explains it. Okay, do you want to carry on? That question indicates, yeah, we've kind of covered that, but read it anyway.
What occurred to me when I was reading this morning was when I look out in my life, it looks like I live a free life, but I had to do a bit of work on inner freedom. And it doesn't quite make sense, but it meant something to me, I guess, that I did some work on inner freedom and it felt better for doing it. Well, there it is. Got it on the screen. That's where I got it from.
Yeah, well, it's most people talk about freedom of the body. They think freedom is, well, if I've got freedom to go where I want and to do as I please, and if I got money, I can do whatever I want. Because well, why don't we go have dinner in Paris tonight? Yeah, we could do that. That's freedom, but it's freedom of the body. It's not the inner freedom. You're actually enslaved. You might have all the money in the world. We can observe this, but you're enslaved to the material world, because you continuously need to use your money to give you experiences that you think are going to make you happy. And then that comes and goes, as everything does, and then you're looking for something else, and so you're on what's called the hedonic treadmill, looking for some kind of satisfaction outside of you, rather than saying, actually, it's here now. It's right here, right now. I don't need to look outside of me. And if you're familiar with Marisa Peer's work, you probably are. She worked with all these celebrities, and they have the so-called freedom. They're celebrities, they have the money, they have the fame. It's like lots of people, I'd love to be a celebrity, but actually they're in prison in their mind still, so they're not free at all, and so they're miserable and unhappy, and they try everything else, and then they turn to Marisa, and she just uses a simple affirmation. I am enough. She used to say that 10 times in the morning, 10 times in the evening, and as many times in between as you can, and that changes it. I am enough, because there's an inner freedom there. I'm not relying anymore on the external world to tell me that I'm enough. I'm just claiming, my true state of being is that I am enough. That's my true identity. So you don't look for freedom in the world anymore, because you won't find it there. The body, by definition, isn't free. The body is going to age. It can possibly get sick. So that arose for you today in your son's experience, and ultimately it's going to die. Fear of death as well. So how can that be free? We're all condemned to death in the body. There's not freedom there. So Yeshua is referring to this transcendent freedom that lies within our mind from the entire dream of being physical, being human, aging, sickness, suffering, death, all of that. To free yourself from that while you're here. So you're simply not bound by that. Although these things seems to still happen in the human experience, they don't affect you. Even if they're happening to you. So, it doesn't really matter. If I'm aging and I'm dying, my body's aging and I'm dying, but I'm not my body, so I don't really identify with it. It's just the vehicle that I'm driving is getting a bit older, and has various changes, which if I don't identify them as me, I'm okay with. It's just the vehicle's changing. It needs to be serviced a bit more, maybe needs to be taken care of. Okay, that's all right, but it's not me. So by letting go of this idea of freedom in the body, then we open ourselves to the true freedom, the inner freedom. And that can only come from accepting the truth of oneness. That's the only place you're going to find it. Which is God, or pure formless awareness of perfect love, in place of the idea of separation. And the belief in that is the ego.
Yeah, I was definitely feeling some separation.
Whenever there's a problem, if you track it back, it's all about separation, isn't it? The real problem is there's an idea of separation that's now been seemingly made real, and that's playing out in the situation.
Yeah.
And that's what causes all the grief and the pain and the suffering and the sickness and the death, an idea of separation that lies deeply buried in the mind. So, this image that I found was really appropriate, because it's there, but it's buried. You've got this maze of complexity going on in your mind and in your life that mirrors what's going on internally. And somewhere in there, there's this doorway to the light, to another dimension, but you have to find it, and you've got to go through the layers of complexity and sometimes work your way through the maze to get to it. And that's really what a good spiritual teacher like Yeshua is helping us to do. He's saying, follow me, because you're going to need some help to get through this maze. You lost at the moment, but I've got through it, and I know how to get through this. So I'm going to guide you through this maze to find the light within you and free yourself. And I know how to do it because I've done it myself. So for me, any worldly teacher is still looking for it. What you want to, ideally, you want to go to a teacher who's already escaped. They're not still trying to escape. They're actually free of the body. And that we have in Yeshua. He's escaped. He's freed himself from the body, and he's found a way to communicate his message via Helen Schuckman and Bill Thetford, using their bodies. But he's transcended the body, so he knows how to do it. He knows how to get out of the matrix. So wouldn't you want to learn from someone who's escaped from the matrix? If you want to escape, he knows how to do it. Whereas if you're still here knocking around, and especially thinking that you know the way, independently of a teaching like someone like Yeshua, or a true master, then you're probably deluded, because you haven't found the way yourself. So I always, I've always said, stick to the course. I've encountered many teachers and teachers of the course, and if they start deviating from the message, then I go, no, it's your own interpretation coming in. It's your own personal self. Stick to the truth. He's laid it out very clearly in the course. There isn't really another interpretation of non-duality. Non-dual is non-dual. It means not two. It means oneness. There isn't really another way of interpreting that, actually, because the course is so clear. It's using such explicit language. So just be wary of that worldly teachers can try and distort the truth, because they haven't fully escaped, and they're still stuck in the maze of duality in their own mind. To get out of that maze is why we need the guidance. So if you want to read the next one, as the picture.
As the picture accompanying today's quote illustrates, the doorway to this truth lies buried within the complex maze this belief has miscreated in our minds and lives. And so we need a guide to help us find and walk through it into another world, which is true reality, as opposed to this false one of time and space in which we seem to be living. You need guidance to navigate your way through the confusing maze of false beliefs and their projections that have miscreated this world, ideally from someone who has escaped from the maze themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, you helped me out the maze a little bit earlier.
And that's all a spiritual teacher can do, is they can just point you out of the maze to the truth, which is within you. You just got lost a bit.
Yeah, it's really interesting, because I can feel the energy shifts from that conversation, that then the guy that did the repair work on the flat earlier, he came back to me with the same energy as you, very calming, and just said, yeah, that's all right, I checked it all, it will dry in time. And then and then I can feel that I can be calm and out of the maze to reply to her when I reply to her. And you kind of pass on the peace, don't you?
And that's because it's a frequency. It's a state of mind which translates into frequency and energy in this world, and it's infectious. Both are, the ego's highly infectious, but so is the spirit. it also, it has a different kind of mechanism. It's not as harsh. It's just kind of quite gentle, subtle, but more powerful. It's like the gentle water. Water is a good analogy, because it's just flowing. The river's flowing all the time. It's just wearing away at the rock. It's not hitting it. It's not. There's none of that. It's just gently, smoothing away, and over many years, it's very effective. It's going to wear away any rock ultimately. Whereas the ego will go, no, take a hammer and smash it, or take a stick of dynamite and blow it up, and that's going to get the job done quicker. But then there's going to be casualties along the way. So, and it's good demonstration that yes, when the proverbial shit's hitting the fan, then go within, take the time to go within, restore your mind to the right state of mind, and then respond. Don't respond from the place of ego, because the response is going to be limited and lacking, and it will probably create more drama. It will create absolutely will create more drama. You can be certain of that, because it like creates like. If you're in that energy, then that's the energy you're then putting out into the universe. You might be saying, I want to solve this problem consciously, but unconsciously, actually, you're in a problematic state of mind. You're in a frustrated state of mind, or angry or fearful state of mind, or whatever. So that is then the prayer of your heart. That's what you're putting into the matrix, the quantum field. And so that's what the so-called universe, this quantum field, responds to. Okay, energy of frustration. Okay, well, what's the energy of frustration can bring? More problems that can't be solved. So then it leads to more intractable problems, and and then you just get stuck in it. And it one disaster to another. And this is how people get totally lost in the maze, because they react out of the ego, and then it takes them deeper into that egoic way of thinking. And if they keep trying to solve the problem in the same way, keep hitting their head against the brick wall, it's very, very frustrating, and that can become very frustrating, very depressing. And they can, you just go, it's hell. I'm living in hell, and I don't know how to escape. When the answer is to change their thinking, just a simple change of mind would do it, but they don't know how to do that. You see, so the spiritual teacher's job is just to say, well, here's a pointer. This is how you can do this. It's actually not that difficult. Just look at it differently, and then that whole maze program that the ego spun in their minds just subsides, and actually there's just peace, and all of the knots, and and I can tell you're more relaxed now. It's like, okay, it's just like you've dropped into that Sally peace again.
Yeah. And it just reminds me of my ex-husband, where he when he gets a difficult email, he goes out and plays golf. And then he says, usually by the time he gets back from golf, it's all resolved anyway. He doesn't have to do anything. But I understand where he's coming from now.
Yeah. Just leave it for a bit, because if you jump in and there's emotional charge, then that charge comes through in your words. And in email or text messages, it's so easy to just have a go, isn't it? And it's like, I got an email recently from someone, and I was like, okay, she's having a go. But I left it for like 2 days. It's like, okay, just leave it. Let the charge dissipate. And then I just responded quite matter-of-factly, and I said, this is actually the case. Your perception is distorted. And I'm not going to respond to further emails like this. It's not because I'm too busy. But if I responded straight away, it might have had it's like, how dare she speak to me like that? And then it's just your ego, the separate self reacting.
And the other person's changed as well, haven't they? Because if they've vented, they've sent their text or whatever, let it kind of go in your direction, and they've got on with their life and forgotten all about it. So when you come back to them, if you came back a bit harsh with them, then you've reignited whatever it is they felt. But if you just come back all very matter of fact, they've gone, oh yeah, I've forgotten all about that.
And I haven't had a response, because it's like, how do you respond to that? It's like end of. I'm saying cut the drama. I'm not going to engage further in, more. You email me and then I email you back, and because that's just drama. So it's like, no, cut it. I'm not going to respond. So end of. And so, the Spirit gives you the guidance to deal with these things appropriately, which is really helpful. It's a very practical problem-solving technique on the level of form. In fact, it's the only one that works, because the ego is attempting to solve the problem. Is not really solving the real problem. It's just trying to solve the symptoms of the problem. And not getting to the root cause, which is always in the mind. The root cause is you have a false self-concept. That's the problem. And every situation that's problematic is showing you your false self-concept. So the only answer is to let go of the real problem, which is the self-concept. So that's what forgiveness is. By letting go of your mental, emotional reaction to this and just saying, actually, this isn't true, it isn't real, I'm not going to react that way. You restore your mind to the true self, which is peaceful, calm, undisturbed by any of this. So actually, it's a very simple. I mean, this is a very, very simple teacher. But to apply it consistently in a world where you're dealing with all of this chaos and madness, insanity, as Yeshua calls it, is the challenge, because it doesn't make sense. What we've created here, miscreated, is a miscreation of a deluded mind, and we're now dealing with its effects seemingly all the time, and we have to deal with them, in this very aware state that doesn't get sucked into them and recognizes that they're just illusions, and we don't have to honor them. Okay, so to continue, enter Yeshua, who demonstrated through his resurrection.
Enter Yeshua, who demonstrated through his resurrection that he had escaped entirely from the limitation, lack, suffering, and death that characterize this world. He knows how to escape from this maze or prison because he did it himself, and so he can quite honestly promise that you will escape from it too by being his disciples and following his guidance, which just means that you are disciplined in following his instructions.
So it's given us this very detailed mind training program. Course. It's called it a course, but it's a program, really. It's a 1-year mind training program with pretty specific instructions. He doesn't beat around the bush. He's giving us the daily lessons. He's giving us the theory in the text. It's a comprehensive course in mind training that he's put together. The likes of which it doesn't exist anywhere else. I mean, it's quite extraordinary what he's done. It's not just a book. It's a course. It's a mind training course with the right components. You've got a text, which is the theory. It's important to understand that. Then you've got the workbook, which is the practical application of the theory, how you actually apply this in your life. The manual for teachers, which is the FAQs, frequently asked questions. If you want to get a bit more advanced and you want to teach this, then it might be useful to know this stuff. Clarification of terms, because you're using all these terms. So, a comprehensive course in mind training with these various aspects, carefully designed and constructed to do one thing, which is to awaken you to who you really are. And all I've done is put together a program that helps you to be more disciplined in following it. It's all there, but the discipline to follow it. The course can't help you very much if you don't actually practice it. If you don't read it, you don't practice the lessons. Just sits there as a kind of reference book in a lot of people's houses, doesn't it? Because they never read it. So it's like, well, oh no, I've got it there, but it's not going to help you very much on the shelf. You've actually got to make it the living truth for you. And it talks about the living God somewhere in the Bible. It's this living truth. It becomes alive in you because you're accepting it, and it becomes alive in your awareness. It's a bit like the analogy would be of an electricity, a light. With electricity, a lamp. So you need the electricity in order for anything to happen with the lamp. So that's the source. But you need the lamp as well. The lamp's got to be willing to allow that current to shine through it. If it gets broken, or the switch doesn't work or whatever, then nothing shines. So it's a combination. It's the electricity, which is always there, but the lamp has to be the activator of that and allow that electricity to enliven it and light it up, and then shine its light and be useful in the world. So we have to allow it, and if we don't allow it, then the electricity can't help us very much. It sits there unused. So this is a course designed to allow you to let that power in. You've been blocking it. Now you let this enormous power, coming from source, in to light you up and to show your light to the world, and then that is useful to other people. And the form of that, is your unique purpose. How that plays out for you. Maybe you're a teacher, a healer. Maybe you're a musician. There's many ways you can shine the light. We talked about the Beatles yesterday. They did it through music. Other people do it through words, through speaking or writing books or whatever. And then you just get the guidance as to what form is appropriate. And then the spirit is directing it all. It's not you. And so this program is designed to reveal that to anyone who's willing to work at it. It's a 1-year mind and life transformation process that if you do it properly, as you have, I mean, it's pretty profound, isn't it? What's happened, and you're not even 1 year into it. You're 6 months into it. How long have you been doing this?
May I started, I think.
May. So 6 months. You're 6 months into it, and huge life-changing shifts have happened. So carry on. Another 6 months, that's 1 year, and then well, there's no finish line. This is an infinite game. You just carry on cycling through it, because you keep learning and growing, and it just helps you to deal with the inevitable challenges that come up in life. Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. It's the same. Or in your case, sort out the flats for your tenants, or sort out your sons, whatever.
Before it would have been people pleasing, and this time
now it's just doing it differently. You're still acting in the world, and situations still arise, but you're not reacting anymore. You're the imperturbable master who's just, okay, well, whatever, I'm not going to react to this.
It certainly feels more empowering. The advice you've given, just being with it for a while and just getting my energy right first. It feels like I'm going back into my energy now, and it looks, the view of what's going on, it looks completely different.
It does. And so that's getting out of the maze. It's a maze in your own mind, and it's a maze of thoughts and emotions and beliefs. And to cut through that and then see the light clearly, this is the mind training. Actually, I was deluded. I didn't see it correctly.
So I had that experience because of the lesson, that's the lesson for today.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how it works. And isn't it just a perfect lesson and teaching? And you go, the more you do this, the more you go, there is this sort of divine intelligence, the Holy Spirit, you could call it, guiding me. So how can I doubt it? The lesson's always perfect. I'm getting the guidance when I need it, and you start to recognize that and trust it. Just had a message from my wife. Do you know what your timing is yet on?
Well, me.
Yeah.
Say 2:30.
Yeah. Okay. Great. That kind of works, and I can let everyone know that, and then I can do that. So, let me just reply. There we go. So, that leads us nicely into the lesson today. So let's have a look at, do you want to read the
I'll read it.
original and then the alternative?
Creation's freedom promises my own. Being's freedom promises my own. Being's freedom promises my own.
Well, that's my translation for creation. There's two ways. Creation is either the extension.
Would it not be being freedom promises my own?
Well, it's possessive. It's like the being is the creation. So beings, this is the beingnesses, but that's clumsy. So being's freedom promises my own. This is the creation is translated in this context as being, because it's the ground of being. It's the fundamental reality, which he's referring to here. The promises you own, because it's fundamental reality. So in that being state, there's everything's perfect. It's pure formless awareness of perfect love. So that's your natural state. It promises your own, because that is fundamental reality, and so it must be fundamental reality for you as well. You're not the only exception, fortunately. Some people, everyone else can have it, but me, no. I'm just a terrible sinner, and somehow there's an exception, and I don't have access to being, and but that's just a false belief. If being is universal, then you must have access to it too, and in fact, it must be you. It must be you. Being's freedom promises my own. End of dreams has promised me. Okay, I'm going to read
the alternative.
Yeah, so read the alternatives. Just God is the God and God's Son. So those are the changes.
The end of dreams is promised me, because perfect love's extension is not abandoned by its love. Only in dreams is there a time when it appears to be in prison and awaits a future freedom, if it be at all. Yet in reality, your dreams are gone with truth established in their place. And now freedom yours already.
Now is freedom yours already.
Now is freedom yours already. Should I wait in chains which have been severed for release, when pure formless awareness of perfect love is offering me freedom now?
Okay, thoughts on that?
Feels nice, free feeling inside my chest. Yeah. All I want is freedom. Yeah, I'm running a course at the moment, a 6-week course on freedom. So I'm focused on freedom for 6 weeks. It's a nice subject.
Now is freedom yours already.
So
it's there already. This is always the truth.
Yeah.
Should I wait around, hang around in the ego's thought system, chains, which have been severed for release? Change that maybe to false beliefs. Should I cling to false beliefs? Which have been severed for release, chains which have been What do you think? Like that?
Yeah, better than severed.
Well, I'm saying you're going to cut the chains. It's all metaphorical, but in the end, the chains are our own beliefs. So should I cling to false beliefs, which have been prepared for release? Yeah, it's all ready. It's ready for you. This has all been. You've done the preparation work to release these, and so you can have freedom now. Not sometime in the future. One of the great ego games is One day in future, you're going to become enlightened, but not now. No. Right now, you've got other stuff to deal with, and can't possibly, how can you be enlightened when your tenant's kicking off and your son's about to die? And, it'll tell you this. But the answer is it's always, right here, right now. And it's the application right here, right now. We've got to learn. No exceptions.
What I notice is people avoid freedom because as soon as I'm talking about when they've created freedom around them. So say I don't know, the children have grown up, they've paid off their mortgage, and suddenly they get some space in their life. Is in sight, and then they go and get a puppy or something that fills up their hours and their time. And it's just like, just don't really want that freedom. All their life they're searching for freedom, and when they get it, they don't want it.
Yeah, because they want to keep themselves busy. The mind activity. So, no, when I retire, it's going to be great. And then someone retires and they sit there, the first day, and they go, so what do I do now? What do I do with all this free time? And then they seek to busy themselves with whatever activities to keep them busy.
That sounds a bit like me as well.
the busyness. Well, okay, why don't you just sit and be?
Yeah, that's what I love.
Just sit and be and you don't necessarily have to do anything, because you've got the time to just sit and be, and it's okay. Go for a walk, just sit and be on your armchair. Sit for an hour and just do a sitting being meditation, and just you don't have to do anything now. But the self-concept, if people haven't let go of that, which generally they haven't, is going, this isn't good, because I used to be productive. My self-concept is attached to what my doing. So I used to be this, productive person, and now I don't have that identity anymore because I'm not, productive anymore. And then they struggle. And then, they try and replace it with something else.
A lot of my clients say that when I encourage them to sit and do nothing and just be, they go through like 20 or 40 minutes restlessness, really discomfort. It's really irritating them. But if I can get them to go longer, where they sit through the restlessness, it only might take 20 minutes, but it feels like it takes a long time. Once they get through the restlessness, then they hit the beingness, and then they love it. But quite often somebody will do it for a couple of minutes and go, oh no, I can't do that. So it's just interesting.
Well, that's meditation, isn't it? Meditation is just a practice of sitting still and being, just quietly. What could be simpler? Sit quietly and just be. And if you're not used to that, then it's very uncomfortable, because the mind's like, oh no, this isn't good. No, we've got to do something. And you're just sitting, and it's like, no, I've got to do something, and I want to get on my phone, or I want to make a phone call, I want to go on the internet, I want to go shopping, I don't know what it goes. And to just sit and, okay, it's okay, I can just sit and be, it's all right. That's why meditation is such a valuable practice, because you get used to being rather than doing. And then you can take your being into the doing afterwards. But if you never have access to that being dimension, then you're lost in the world of doing, and you react on the level of form. You're rooted in what Ken Wilber calls flatland, which is just the perception that only time and space is real. Nothing else is real. And so you're only in these external domains. Only those are real. And that's a very limited perspective. What you can do from flatland is hugely limited, because you've denied reality. Very integral model. You've actually denied that the interior dimension of your own mind exists. So how limited are your responses then? You're basically saying, I can't change my mind. I can only change things on the level of form. You see how limiting that is. Oh, okay, well, there's a problem. I can't change my mind. I've just got to react to it and try and fix it on the level of form. So a very, very limited, flat response. There's no dimension of depth to that thought system. And so, of course, you can't really solve the problem because the problem lies in the interior. But the ego has, got you to deny that the interior even exists. A pure scientific materialist doesn't even believe they have a mind, which is ridiculous. How can you believe you don't have a mind? You're aware, you're conscious, you have thoughts. How can you possibly deny this whole domain? How do you pull that off? But just because you can't see it, but that's the scientific materialist paradigm. So if you can't see it, feel it, measure it, touch it, it's not real. So they can't really explain then what consciousness is, because consciousness is not something you can see, feel, touch, taste. You can see its effects, but you can't actually go, well, there it is, we've got it. There's consciousness, we've put it. So they don't know how to deal with it. It doesn't fit into the model, which means the model is incorrect. It's not a big enough model. Okay, so any other thoughts on number 1, paragraph 1?
Oh, I just contemplating, do I just keep myself busy? I was just thinking about that being a change of identity, yeah. Because I do like to pack in a lot into a day. But then I also love being. But I do have times where I stop and just be. But it's always a balance, isn't it? How much doing do you do and how much being do you do? Because I tend to swing from getting a little bit too much in the doing, and then I go back and do a little bit too much being. So maybe that's just
finding an equilibrium.
Yeah.
For you. Now the main thing is if you're doing that, it's doing from being. You're not doing because you're trying to perpetuate a false self-concept. You're denying your being. Your being's coming through in the doing. And when that stops and you feel like you're losing the connection with being, then it's time to go back into being.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you can sustain it. No one can sustain being in doing forever and just do and do and do. You have to have the rest. You have to have times where you go, okay, no, I'm not going to do now. I'm going to rest and I'm restore myself into being. So then it's time when you find you're going out of flow, then okay, time to stop activity and go back into some form of rest. That might be a walk. You're still, walking, but relatively speaking, you're not so active in the mind. So it's more beingness. And that's a continuous kind of dance. If you're in form, it's like knowing, okay, I'm being now, doing, and you just intuitively know. Okay, I feel the call. Like if I'm feeling disconnected, if I'm feeling stressed, that's a time for more being. And if I'm feeling like really, very peaceful and there's some kind of inspiration arising to do something, then it's time for doing, to express that, extend that out. And that's, it's going to change. You might, I do a lot as well. I mean, I work serious, sometimes crazy hours. But as long as I have time out of that, I know, okay, it's time, I can't just go forever. It's like I have to restore my mind. I have to go out of that and be. And unfortunately, a lot of the work I do, like this is being time. I'm speaking, but it's actually being. So quite useful. So ideally, if you can arrange your life so that you do from the place of being, and your being is actually being expressed in the doing, and that's what you'd call your higher purpose. If you can find a way to do that.
Yeah.
Which it sounds like you have done that. You set up a life where you can do that.
Yeah, and a lot of my client sessions I'm being in the client sessions, so it's just that stuff around the client sessions that get a bit easier sometimes.
Yeah.
So
it's just listen to the guidance. In in a situation like today, you went, okay, come on the call because there's a call for more being. You were getting lost in the world of form. So then you listen to the call to restore the balance, and then okay, now after this call, you're fine. You can go and do again, and you can go and do whatever you need to do on the level of form. And actually, you'll find that you've saved yourself time.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because I do, when I go to come on this call, the old way of being would have been I take a lunch break and that would be my being time. But actually the thought of coming on here and this is being time, that's quite an interesting thing, isn't it, really? That this isn't doing, because sometimes it feels like there's a lot of words with the Course in Miracles, but it is really being with the words rather than doing the text stuff. So that's a new thought, that this is being. It is.
It's a form of being. We're using the words and the practices and discussion to point us into being.
Yeah, so perhaps I do a lot more being than I realize.
Well, I mean, when you come off a call, how do you feel?
Yeah, just calm.
Like, calm, you're in your beingness. It's all okay. Well, that's a sign. If you came off and you were feeling like really a bit stressed and anxious and John has given me a whole lot of homework to do and I'm really like, well, no, that's not being anymore. Now, that's doing. You're in the egoic energy. So it's how you feel.
Yeah.
And the reason why you come is because it nurtures the beingness in you. So you get 2 hours or 3 hours of being, and then in the middle of your day, it's actually a great way if you think about how our lives work. You have sleep time, okay, so that's being time. And then you get up, if you get up early, you have quite a busy morning. So you do some spiritual practice ideally when you wake up, just to start the day. Then you have maybe a stretch of several hours where you're doing, and then you need to top yourself up again. So like, okay, well, it's very easy come sort of afternoon to kind of lose that connection, isn't it? And you get a bit tired, and very easily you can slip out of the being state and into a less than optimal state, a bit grumpy, a bit tired, frustrated, whatever. So then top it up with you doing a 2-hour top up. It's a proper injection of being, and then you carry on for the evening, for the afternoon, and into the evening, and do some spiritual practice before bed, and then so then you're in a nice rhythm of being and doing. And we've all got to work that out for ourselves. Some people will be a bit more active. And I was listening to Eckhart Tolle, and he said, well, I'm more like 80% being and maybe 20% doing. And it's Oprah Winfrey. She says she's got inexhaustible energy to do. It's extraordinary. I can't keep up with her. She's more like 50-50. But even when she's doing with all that gusto and energy, she's able to maintain connection with her being. That's how she's wired up. And she does take the time out to just be and meditate and so on. But for Eckhart, he's like, well, I couldn't do as much as she did. I'm just not wired up that way. I'm more being oriented. And he says, I have energy when I'm speaking, because that's being. When he's up on stage and he's speaking, that's being time. So he's quite comfortable doing it. As I said, I'm happy doing, because it's all about, I'm speaking about being, and it's very much an energy of pulling people into being rather than doing. And I suppose that's what's happening with these calls. Discussion, although we're speaking, we're using language. Well, really, it's all about pointing us to being. That's the only purpose of the language, is to point us into a deeper state of connection with being. And the words are just tools to help us do that. And so it's not, the course should never be like, oh, well, I'm getting through this. I'm just, lesson 279, let's read it, tick that box. That's not, what it's about. It's about, can you feel into it? Can you read it? And it's really, especially in part 2, saying go deeper into it. use the words as a pointer into this presence. And then they connect you with being, and the form of them, you start noticing the lessons all merge into one. It's like, okay, well, this lesson and the previous one, it's just slightly different. He's changing the form, so he keeps us kind of interested in something different every day, but it's the same lesson, really. Just repeat it over and over, just another pointer into beingness. Okay, you want to read number 2 for us?
I accept your promises today and have faith they are fulfilled. Could you really withhold the gifts you gave to me? This is impossible because my source loves the extension whom it extends as its own.
Yeah, so I changed quite a bit here. Would you withhold the gifts you gave to me? So I just switched the order. Could you really withhold the gifts you gave to me? And this is impossible because my source loves the extension, whom it extends as its own. It's not possible that a loving presence could withhold. Not possible. So then the ego will say, well, how then do I feel so disconnected? Well, it's because you chose. It's got nothing to do with the presence. There's another awareness in you that chose against it and said, well, I'll choose to deny this. And that denial is impossible because actually that awareness is still there, but you've believed in the impossible and then get all kinds of impossible results as a result. So that's another way of looking at it. The whole dream, this is just an impossible idea because your source can't ever not be itself. So this entire delusion of separation is just an impossible idea. That now you've had the impossible idea. Seemingly, you can choose to continue believing in it, or you can go, okay, it's just an impossible idea. It isn't actually possible for any of this to happen, although it seems to be happening.
What's just occurred to me, which just seems obvious, but you know how these things drop in a bit deeper. When you're in the blue circle, you feel loved. And when you're in all the rest, you feel unlovable.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which is, it's interesting, isn't it? That you're outside of the blue circle, you're searching for love all the time, aren't you?
Yeah.
It's only just occurred to me.
Really?
I've seen this about 100 times. But you know how it goes in a bit deeper, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, that's why we keep returning to it. The ego's whole program is I'm unlovable. But that's not because the source doesn't love you. It's because the ego has decided that it's unlovable. And so, it's created a disconnection from this true awareness, which is just pure love.
Yeah, you feel unlovable because you're not in the state of love.
Yeah. But that's your choice to remain there. It's just saying, well, you are always loved. This loving awareness is always there. So it's up to you to accept it.
And that's the same in relationships, isn't it? That when you stop loving someone, you feel unlovable. It's like it's a state that you just tune into. It doesn't matter who you're with. You might choose somebody special to have a relationship with, but really it's all about tuning into the state of love. And then you feel loved. Oh, that's a new thought. I like that.
Yeah, of course. As you give, you receive.
Yeah.
You give it out, and then you must receive it because it's one source. It's giving and receiving to itself through you. That's what the holy relationship is. It's just apparently two separate entities, but it's really they're the same. When they realize that, then they go, well, actually we're one. So we just giving and receiving to ourselves.
You're loving yourself.
Yeah.
Back to that. So that's at the beginning of all the spirituality. It's about learning to love yourself. I used to think, well, who's self? Who's loving who? And all this sort of thing. But really it's that, isn't it? That you are loving yourself, regardless of whoever you're focusing on at the time.
Yeah. And it accesses, the more you give it and extend it, the more this pure formless awareness of perfect love arises in your own mind. So you then, through the extension of it, you activate the source. Your own connection with the source is strengthened. That's what the holy relationship's all about. Holy aware relationship is about extending unconditional love, so that you learn that unconditional love is your true nature. Just, is really helpful.
Yeah, so your true nature is lovable.
Yeah, and the program of the ego is I'm unlovable. I see this when I do the naming your game exercise, which you haven't done. You haven't done it yet, but we'll get there in February next year. See, it's over and over that this is the program. Everyone's got a program that they're not lovable, and that plays out, in slightly different ways. They might think they're not good enough. Well, that's a version of unlovable. Or they might actually go, I'm not worthy of love, and I really feel that. Well, that's just the direct, and then that extends into their whole life. But if I'm unlovable, then no one can love me. Then what I do is I deny love. If anyone tries to love me, I don't believe that's possible, so I deny it. I run away from it, and so then we sabotage any love that could come into our lives because we don't believe it's possible. It's a crazy belief, really. I mean, it's kind of when you look at it for what it is, you really see the ego. I mean, it is insane, because that's just completely nuts. You are this loving awareness. That's your true nature, and yet you've decided that you're something else. That you're not this loving awareness. Therefore, you're unlovable, and you maintain that belief in your mind to keep this loving awareness out. And then you suffer all of this pain and suffering and sickness and death as a result. And you're so stubborn that you don't want to accept that it's just your own belief that's the problem. It's laughable, actually. I mean, when you really understand this dream, it's just like enlightenment is a joke, as the Zen say. It's like, wow, that's just crazy. What have we actually done? Seemingly done. Yeah. So, but it's interesting how it all, that's why we refer back. The lessons then point us to the diagram again. And you go and you have another look at it, and it's like, okay, so now it's got these levels of deeper levels of significance, I think it's called, because it's got the ultimate truth, and then you can look at it over and over and over again. You'll see different things, depending on how you're looking and who's looking.
I've drawn my own little diagram on my pad. It just makes sense to me that so it's just gone, something's dropped in deeper about that.
Good. Okay, so that's lesson 279 done.
Time for a nice meditation.
Go into a med, for 15 minutes, and then we'll call the session to an end.
Lovely. Thank you.
Okay, so just making yourself comfortable. Sitting with your feet shoulder width apart, back straight, cup your hands in your lap. Close your eyes. And start off with a nice deep breath in through the nose. Breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Just pausing at the top of the inhale. Smile. Scan your mind, so just check in, scan your mind, notice thoughts, emotions, sensations going on, particularly anything that feels negative, limiting, contracted, constricting in any way. Observe those thoughts, emotions, and sensations, and bring them to the truth. And it's only the truth that will set you free. So you remind yourself that being's freedom promises my own. And just connect with this deeper sense of being in you. Another sip of air and breathe it in. Imagine you breathing it into every pore, every cell, every muscle of your body. Every part of your mind, every fiber of your being is in the beingness this lesson points to. You're infused with this being, in which the end of dreams is promised. This perfect love's extension is not abandoned by its love. Not possible that this loving awareness can abandon you. Only in dreams is there a time when it appears to be in prison and awaits a future freedom, if it be at all. Yet in reality, your dreams are gone. So exhale, blow them away. The breeze of your breath. Blow them away, pull the low stomach into the spine, expel the last remaining air out. And just rest. A few moments in this deep peace and stillness. This is the truth that is established in the place of dreams. And Yeshua says, now is freedom yours already. So ask yourself, should I cling to false beliefs which have been prepared for release? And pure formless awareness of perfect love is offering me freedom now. So ask yourself that question, and the answer is surely obvious. So just connect with this deep being, breathing in and out through your nose. To let go of mind chatter, just focusing all attention on the breath. Keep watching the breath and sinking deeper and deeper with each breath into this calm, still place of being. It's a state, really, not a place, a state of mind, of being, which is the same as pure formless awareness. And you surrender into being. So accept your promises today, addressing your source, and have faith they are fulfilled. Could you really withhold the gifts you gave to me? This is impossible because my source loves the extension, whom it extends as its own. And just rest in the peace and the certainty of the source, this deep being. There's nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. next couple of minutes. Just breathe, relax, and be still. Any thoughts arise, seem to disturb this deep being, and just observe them casually, like imagine they're like clouds just drifting by. Just let them go. The breeze of your breath, blow them away, dissipating into nothingness. And it's revealed as the pure blue sky, which is your true awareness, your beingness. Let the light, just light of your source of all being, just shine through you into your mind, creating this deeply peaceful, connected, happy state. And so just gently coming back to the awareness of the body and the breath, senses and the world. And then on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in. Nice deep breath in again. Notice the sensation of the air flowing into your nostrils, to the chest and the stomach. Another sip of air in. Maybe feel the energy rising up the spine. You can clench your sphincter muscle. Notice that energy in your groin. Pause at the top of the inhale. Smile. So once again, just check in, scan your mind. Just observe any thoughts and emotions related to those thoughts, any related body sensations showing up for you. So stay very present, connected to your source, and realizing none of these really matter. Just blow them away. The breeze of your breath. Remind yourself that being's freedom promises my own. When you exhale, notice the air flowing out, chest and the stomach sucked back in. Just the energy subsiding back down to your lower stomach and your groin. Count of 2, notice the weight of your body pressing down into the chair, your feet touching the ground. Notice what you're feeling and touching with your hands. Maybe there's a subtle taste in your mouth, smell in your nose, notice that. Notice what you're hearing in the surrounding environment. Just noticing all these things from this very still, calm, and surrendered state of mind. And on the count of 3, open your eyes. So just take a minute to look around, ground yourself back into this so-called reality. Notice that whatever you look at, this deeply peaceful presence, your beingness, underlies all of your sense perceptions, and just stay there. Practice today's lesson frequently. Ideally every hour, Yeshu recommends. Just bring this idea to mind and use the 4-minute breath break I sent, or just the short instructions to do it in under a minute that I included in my text message and the email today. And that should keep you connected to your being and in a state of flow. So allow the being to then guide you in your thoughts and your words and your actions. That's how it works. That's what the state of flow means. And so that's what I wish for you. A very peaceful, connected, flowing afternoon and evening ahead. Maybe see you on Sunday or Sunday night or Monday.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Have a nice weekend.
Yeah, same to you. Bye.
Namaste.